Yo, Sebastian.
Hey Joey,
Hello, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm right now in LA.
Good to have you finally in the show, man. Yeah, you just moved to LA?
Yeah, it's I moved here 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
With my girlfriend, she's from the States. So I moved from Amsterdam to LA 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. So I'm
Okay.
now in West Hollywood.
And how's your experience so far?
Yeah, it's been really nice. I came here when it was Grammy week, so it was really busy. A lot of events, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of performances by Grammy artists, and which was really exciting. So it was started with a great week. Now I'm really settled in and getting used to the time zone difference. I don't have jet lag anymore, so I'm getting up pretty early, but not like in the beginning, like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. Like I start at around
Yeah.
6 a.m.
It's like a
and work till
9 hour time difference?
yeah, it's 9 hour
Yeah,
time
it's a
difference.
lot.
So here it's 11 a.m. and there in Europe and Holland it's 8 p.m.
It's
right now.
8 p.m. Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. It's a great city. I've been there twice, but I totally can imagine why you would like to live there. Like great
Yeah,
temperatures.
I've been here 2 times earlier. One time we went Coachella, which was an
Mm-hmm.
amazing experience. I went with Anna and with Matthias.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second time I was here with an artist with sessions. It was like last year. So I kind of, like I really liked the place. It was always good weather.
Yeah.
Although like first 2 weeks when I was here, it was always raining the first 2 weeks. So I brought the rain from Holland.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cold. Like sometimes even warmer in Holland at this time of the year. So it's really interesting. But now it's getting warmer again, and we hike almost every day, every
Yeah,
other
I
day.
noticed
We
on
hike.
your Instagram, like you walk a lot.
Yeah, so it's only 10 minutes drive to the hills.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really easy to go out and hike a bit, and it's really good to get your mind off and to walk a little bit, do some exercise, and the view is amazing. Like it's just you see the whole downtown. You see downtown. You see West Hollywood. You see Venice Beach from far distance.
Yeah.
I really like the view, and it's really inspiring, I think. And sometimes I get like some ideas when I hike with my girlfriend. So I think it's really nice. Um, it's really a different life, like in Holland. It's dark when you leave your house, you go to work and by bike, and then you come back, it's dark again, especially in the winter, of course.
Yeah.
Here it's always light, there's always there's a lot of sun, and especially because of the time zone, I'm like done here like around 2, 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then like it's like you have the extra day, like you work in the morning and then you have like a whole day ahead still.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was always power napping a little bit during the like in the afternoon because I was so tired. But now, like I can do it without power nap, and then we just like a second day. So it's really a longer, different life. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine, and that's the thing I like about the summer here as well. That when you come back from home from work, so let's say around 6 or 7 o'clock, you can still go and sit outside in the garden and
Yeah,
barbecue and stuff until let's say 11 or whatever. And in the winter, that's completely different here. I always have to get used to the early darkness as well in the winter.
yeah, and it's really nice here because I work so early.
Hmm.
I'm super productive, and right now I'm work from home. I'm looking for a shared space, but right now I work from home, so I'm really productive. Work like 8 hours straight, and then I'm like done. And because like right now I don't work with a team. Like my whole team is basically in Holland still,
Hmm.
so you also don't really get distracted anymore by meetings or by like quick questions.
Yeah.
So you don't have to take a lot of responsibility. So I work really efficient and really fast. So that's really I think it's really
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
um,
Let's dive
to work abroad.
let's dive a little bit deeper into that because for the people who don't know you, could you give a brief introduction of who Sebastian is? Let's
Yeah, so
start
I
with your
started as
past. Like, how did you even
yeah.
end up in the music industry?
So I started well I started when I was 12, I guess. I found like a CD from Daft Punk. It was Discovery, the album.
Hmm.
My French cousin, he showed it to me. It was an illegal CD, but it was like I needed music to go back to Holland because it was a 6 hour drive. So I asked like, do you have CDs? Back then it was like still the Walkman era, and then I got a CD and I was like, wow, this is amazing. you know, I before that I was listening to everything, like all like hip hop, R&B, dance, because my sisters always got CDs from like Jennifer Lopez, Craig David. So I like all the kind of music. But this was for the first time I was like, wow, this is truly amazing. And then I put the album on repeat, like 24/7. Like even when I was like sleeping, I put the CD on repeat. And I really lost myself in the album. And then I don't know how I was like, maybe it was like a software program on school, like a magic maker, or maybe I think there was also like a PlayStation 1 game my cousin had. So I was like kind of messing around with making beats, and it was really like, I don't know if you remember, like you had the building blocks, like
yeah, with Magic Music Maker.
Yeah, and it was also on the PlayStation, and that's how I like, I think for most people that's how you start. It's like the entry level, like the entry point of making music. And then my brother-in-law, he was a DJ, and I think when I was 14, 15, 16, maybe 16, my sister he met my brother-in-law now, and he was a DJ, and he was also a member of the label Luke Forum, and he really introduced me to the good music. He was like, at that time I was still listening to like trance and dance, and he was like, "That dude, that music where you're listening, it's so crappy, it's so bad. You have to listen to the real stuff." Then he was sending me French house music, and at first I didn't like it at all. It was like I thought it was really boring. But then I don't know when it was like a switch in my brains, and then it was like, wow, this is really amazing. And I got a CD map with thousands of CDs. Like I could practice on the CDJs because he lived around the corner, so it was like a 1-minute walk. So I was practicing, and he really like kind of introduced me to the scene. And then I think he took me to a Luke Forum meeting, 2000. I don't even know, like 2003.
Did they actually had meetings? Like you met up with the people that were on the forum?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like legendary.
Wow.
Like it was like these meetings were legendary. Like I joined the forum in 2004, 3. I don't remember. And then and back then the forum was really big, big medium. Then you keep talking with people, and the forum is really, it's like a legendary forum because like all the big artists are from there, like Barney Moore, Afrojack, Bingo Players, Avicii,
I guess.
also like everyone was on the Liberty Forum because it was not really like a good EDM site, I guess, or French house site. Back then French house was a big thing. And then you had like meetups once a year, and then it was like really nerdy. It was like only 2 girls out there, and everyone was like zombies watching the DJ scratch, and there was like Barbie Moore was playing maybe, or like the biggest forum contributors, they were playing at the French house set, and everyone was like, watching it. It was super amazing. And it was like a manager of Martin Garrix, who was also a DJ. His DJ name was Istal. So I met a lot of DJs I still work with right now, or people from the industry I still know. Like for example, Tom. He worked at Unmanageable Artists, but he was like one of the biggest forum members. He was also driving Le Luc back then. So all these people, they're still working in the industry, and that's really interesting. Yeah. But back then, you had once a year, you had a meeting. You went there. It was like a small club, maybe in Utrecht or Amsterdam, and then like the insane lineup, like all the biggest DJs right now. And then it was like really like, amazing place to be. And it was nice because then you met a lot of people in real life, and I think that's. You see it now a lot in the tech industry, like meetups, and I don't think you have. I don't think you have a lot of now in the music industry, except like ADE, these conferences. But like meetups around one artist or one format, you don't really have that right now. But
that doesn't happen anymore.
No, but it was really cool because then finally you could meet people, DJs, producers, and of course label.
Yeah, I think right now that happens more in the gaming industry. Like there's a lot of those gaming cons, those kind of things. And those happen a lot. And with the vloggers as well. There's a lot of vloggers having these meetups on the streets, in shops and stuff. So maybe it shifted to there, but
yeah, it's shifting, but it was really nice. I love that. And then I think that was 2004 or 5, and then I started I was making music, switched to FL Studio. It was also like basic entry level software. You can, of course, it's for advanced, but also it's really easy to understand, to learn for beginner producers.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I started making music. And then I was kind of be mentored by Label Luc. He was always checking my demos, and at that time you could just submit a demo on the Label Luc forum. And back then it was just like a CP shell link, put it in like a forum thread, and then he was responding on it. It was pretty cool because you could see feedback he had for others, and you could just download the track. Like nobody really cared. Like it was not like this whole thing, but people stealing each other's songs that didn't really exist. So people just put their full songs, unsigned songs out there.
Yeah.
It's really hard to imagine now because of course you have SoundCloud now and everything, but people are more careful with that. But back then it wasn't really a thing. Like people didn't really steal your music. And it was nice because you could see each other's music. You could download it in high definition, and then you could see the feedback from Label Luc. So you also learn from others. And people, they responded on each other demos. So it's more like I give you feedback and you give me feedback. So I that's how I learned quickly. And after that, I sent like Label Luc DMs for demo, private demo, and he really coached me. And then my first release was a remix of In the Air, and he played it at one of his gigs, which was also a recorded gig for his Mix Match album. So it was pretty cool. And it was my first release. And
that's actually funny because I think no one really knows that you've been releasing music as well.
No, not a lot. Like, of course, the people around me knows it, but and some fans, they know it. They're tweeting me like, "Oh, 6 years ago you released this song," but most people don't know it. If I tell them like, "How long do you work at Revealed?" and I'm saying like, "Yeah, 6 years," and but I also was an artist on Revealed.
Yeah,
like at the 50th release on Revealed, which is a long time ago. But and that's how I actually met the whole team. And so I first got the remix out, then did a couple of more remixes on Spinning Records and whatever. And then I got signed by Spinning when I was I can't remember, like 23, 22, I don't know. And then I made some tracks with Tommy Trash, like 3 of them. 2 have been released. Nobody really knows this, but one with No ID, one collab with Tommy Trash on Spinning Records. And it was before Tommy Trash had a big hit with Ingrosso.
Okay.
I still remember that he played it for me, like when he had the vocal version, but back then it wasn't a big hit. And then I got signed to Revealed. And then Hardwell made an edit, and that's how I really got into that's how I, stayed in touch with the Revealed team, basically. It was just basically Robert and Matthias. And then I was signed
It wasn't that much at that moment. It was just Matthias running the place, I guess, running Revealed. And
it was one release a month.
Yeah, I think I was I think the 3rd or 4th release on Revealed. I think was digital. Yeah, I guess.
Digital.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. We still have we have a legacy sign at our office with all the first 100 releases. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen a picture of it. Yeah.
So and then in 2012, now first I tried to make music and to be a DJ for 2 years full time. Then didn't really work out, and then I found this job opportunity at Cloud9, and I applied, and I got a job. And then 7 months later, I switched to the Revealed team, and also sort of management, because Revealed was back then managed by the management agency. Sort of management who was looking after Hardwell. So I did some art management jobs, and I did label management. So I was kind of the first employee of Revealed. That was in 2013 in March. I joined them almost 6 years ago.
Yeah, man, time flies.
Yeah, time flies. It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot has happened in those years. Like Revealed took off, Hardwell took off, everything took off. You were there from the beginning. You've seen it all.
Yeah, he wasn't even number 1 back then. He was like 26 or something. Like he wasn't even.
Yeah, when he just entered, he was 21, 22nd. I don't know.
Yeah, I think 26, 24 something.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's crazy to see what happened in those years, and I can imagine it's crazy for you to see what a growth like that in a company does. Like it's been from this small little private, almost private little thing, you know, to one
Yeah.
release a month to this big machine that it is right now.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Like sometimes like we are joking in the office, and then we're like, you know, what we do now is insane. Like if compared to back then, like we did one release and we already thought it was a lot, you know, like one release a month.
Yeah,
And now we're doing like I don't even know exactly. It's like maybe 5 releases a week.
yeah,
And we have 7, 8 people working full time, you know, like and a lot of freelancers. So it's it really grow really fast. And back then we had no idea like how big EDM was growing. Like I had no clue. I was just in the middle of it, and we had all these big songs like, you know, W&W and with Oscon, you know, the
yeah.
Code. We had all these other big releases.
Oh yeah, the code. Yeah,
Uh,
holy shit, that was big.
yeah, like you know, like Alvaro, Lil Jon, you know, Welcome to the
Mm-hmm.
Jungle. Like with we had like Deoro, yeah, we had so many big hits, you know, like club hits. But it also was just that time, you know, like EDM was really blowing up in the US, and
Yeah.
we were like in the right spot. We were like right in the middle of it, and everyone wanted to work with us and do something with us. Um,
I think you guys played it really smart, as in you leveraged the power of Hardwell to build the brand of Revealed.
yeah,
And I think that was a really smart move because Hardwell clearly was on a rise, and you just leveraged his power because it was his label, of course, to build the brand. And I think that,
yeah, we
yeah,
yeah, we were always like it wasn't even really calculated or something. It was just something we were doing. Like if he was playing Miami, of course we had the label night also as well,
yeah,
like connected. If we had a release on Revealed, of course we would put it on the Hardwell Facebook and tag Revealed everywhere. But it wasn't really. We had no brand manager, we had no marketing manager. We were just doing it. You know, we had no no clue actually. But we knew like we always had to connect Revealed and try to tag it where possible. And you know, if we have an event, even during ADE, we call it Hardwell Presents Revealed. So we kind of had the idea, and with the logos everywhere, you know, in the intros and outros on YouTube and everything, and the banners, we knew that we had to do it, but it was not really a calculated marketing.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
just
I
like
can
something we
imagine.
were just doing. Yeah.
And now if you have a look back at those years, like what's the biggest thing you got from working there until now?
The biggest thing. Well, one thing we learned was like what I learned is if you're successful at something. For example, we were really good with Beatport. You know,
Mhm.
we're like the best in Beatport. If you want to have a Beatport top 10, you need to sign with Revealed.
Yeah.
And we were always sticking to it. You know, we're like holding onto this thing that we never invested in new up and coming platforms, or you know, this example was Spotify, but we never really put the energy and time and money into new ideas and new strategies, or something that may not generate money in the short term, but in the long term. We weren't really thinking of that because there's no strategy, no real strategy,
Yeah.
and we had no big team, so we couldn't even do it. But it was more. So what I learned was like, you know, even if you're successful, if something works right now, it will not maybe work in 5 years. So
Yeah.
that's like I always tell the Beatport example for in our team, like, you know, you don't look at, for example, if we start something new, don't look at the what's doing right now for money wise, or
Mhm.
you know how many followers or likes. Like don't be distracted by that. You know, like if we think it's part of a strategy and it's going to be big, and we think it's going to be has potential, you know, like eventually it will come, you know, but um, let's not look at the numbers for the first few years or something like that.
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
course, if I knew this before, like don't focus blindly on the success. Like would probably would have been bigger at Spotify like a few years ago, because we really had to invest a lot now to get our position right on Spotify, because we're like behind everything, like playlist followers, leverage connections with Spotify. We had nothing, you know.
Yeah.
The only thing we had was Beatport, and that's, I think that's for me the important lesson. Like if something's successful now, then, you know, don't think it's gonna stay forever. You know, I think there's this the famous book or animation like Who Stole My Cheese. You know, I think that's a really good example.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
I don't know if you know it, but it's really funny. It's like about two mice who were like always going to the same place to get some cheese, but suddenly it's not there anymore. It's empty,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then like, hey, who stole cheese? And this other guy put the cheese in a different silo, and he invested in the future, so he got like a lot of cheese in the future. And it's really, it's a really famous book, a really interesting lesson. And yeah, I think that's really important what we learned. And also what I really learned was we were kind of selfish, I think, in the past. We've revealed like, and now we always think like, how can we help the artist? You know, like it's really about the artist. You know, like we need to satisfy them. We need to help them grow. We need to help them. Yeah, like to grow their career. We need to find stuff to help them, because otherwise they will not need us anymore. Like revealed, and we really need to be there for them instead of we being this arrogant label. Which is just about us and our music and our followers and whatever. So now that's really important, because now I see the results, like how we're helping new artists and even existing talent we have, like the bigger names.
Mm-hmm.
We really try to find ways to help them and to, you know, to make sure their career is going to even be bigger and better. And I think the past years, we were not really aware of that. Of course, we're always pushing talents, but I think we could have done more maybe. And that's another lesson we learn, like, hey, how can we really help the artist instead of just being focused on.
And how do you see like the position of the label within the industry? Do you think that has changed, as in a lot of people talking about this right now? You know, there's a lot of new opportunities that are on the market, like TuneCore and DistroKid and all those self-distributors. Now, actually, yesterday, SoundCloud announced that they are starting to do their own distribution as well.
Yeah, it's so I always tell my team also with the DistroKid, TuneCore example, like, you know, what's the difference? You know, why do you need Revealed? Why can't you do it on your own? And it's a really good example how we can be different, how you still need a label. So we always think about that, and it's our most important mindset, I think. For example, back in the days, getting your music on Spotify was like a mystery, was like was really, you know, you can't imagine now, but it's like back then it was like, oh, I need to sign with a label because then it's gonna be on Spotify, and then you have your song on Spotify, and then you can tell your family you have a song on Spotify, and that's like huge, you know, like you need to find a label who can actually put your song on Spotify. And now it's like really funny, like,
yeah.
How can that even be a thing? Like, how can it be in USP for a label? They can put your music on Spotify. Like, that's ridiculous, like, to think about it. But back then, I'm not even talking about 10 years ago, but maybe like, even like,
no, probably like 1 or 2 years ago.
Yeah, like even then, like a lot of people was like, I don't know, like now you have this DistroKid and TuneCore and whatever you have. It's, you know, getting your music on Spotify is not an issue anymore, and it's not a USP anymore for a label.
So how do you differentiate that now as a label? What do you add for value to a release, which could be useful for an artist?
Yeah, so right now, if you think in building blocks, the distribution building block is kind of fading away. So you need to replace that with something, you know, like otherwise it's just like you're offering less service to the artist because they can upload their own music. So that's not really important anymore. So we always think like, okay, how can we help the artist? What can we do other than the artist himself? And now what I see in the past years is, you know, getting your music on Spotify is so easy. It's not hard anymore. But what happens, it's just like SoundCloud back in the days. Like everyone can upload the music, and it's just sitting on Spotify. And then what? You know, like what's the next?
Yeah,
it's just like uploading music to SoundCloud. Like even now, it's the same thing, because now if you upload to SoundCloud, you can put it on Spotify.
But it has no reach.
So there's no reach. So
if you don't have any reach, it doesn't get any reach.
Yeah, so it's just like a Facebook post. You have 0 likes. You know, it's the same thing with Spotify. If you have 0 monthly listeners, you have nothing, you have no fan base. So you upload your music to Spotify, you have 0 monthly listeners. Because now I'm taking an example like a beginner, like starting artist. Of course, this is different for where you stand in your career, but let's just say you're a beginning artist. Just the same thing if you start an Instagram account or a Facebook account, now you start on Spotify. It's just like a channel, it's nothing more or less than that. It's just a channel where you can listen to podcasts and to your music, and that's it. Like it's not that special anymore. So if you're an artist and you're releasing to Spotify, then your music's sitting there, and then you have 0 monthly listeners, and then you probably stream it yourself a few times, and you put it in your playlist, and you send it to friends and family, and then you get maybe 1 or 2 streams, and then you're asking like, okay, now what? Like, what happens now? Like, oh, you have to do your own promotion. Oh, you have to reach out to playlist curators. Oh, you have to pitch it yourself. You have to send it to YouTube accounts, to promote it. So you have to do a lot of stuff like that yourself. But with Revealed, for example, if you sign to a label or to a Revealed, we help you with the first push. So, for example, if you have a release on Revealed, what we do, not only we put it in our Revealed playlist in our ecosystem on Apple Music, Spotify, and Deezer, because we have all the playlists mirrored on all the platforms. We will also play it on, our On Air radio show, Revealed Radio. We put it in some compilations. We really try to push the release. But we also, if you have a community release on Revealed, we actually gate your own Spotify account and your playlist. So if you have a free release on Revealed, we just built this, I think 6 months ago. If someone's downloading the track on our platform, we also gate your playlist. So we actually help you build up your followers on Spotify. So, and that's really cool because that way we can really help starting talent. So if you have a release with us, suddenly you have like a few thousand of followers on your playlist, and that's really valuable to kickstart your career on Spotify, let's say, because you need to build up your monthly listeners, because then the next release you have on your profile, you'll already get pushed in release radar because of the algorithm, right? So so we're really thinking like, okay, how can we help the beginner artists, starting artists? So that's like one aspect we do, and we have like a bunch of other stuff we do. Like, of course, you get like on our YouTube channel, you get all the social media support. You get in our promo database. We send it to all the artists, podcast producers, and all the DJs out there. So you get basically distributed in our network, because we also work with a lot of YouTube channels, etc. So it's really a good way to get into to start build up your channel. And Spotify is just a channel like Facebook is, and we will tag you on Facebook. So it's really will kickstart your career, like, so you have some kind of followers and monthly listeners.
It's actually like an exclusive option to tap into the audience that you guys have built over the years, like the millions of followers that you guys have built in the years. You tap into that audience, and that's an easy way up for an artist, I guess.
Yeah. Like, if you get a social media, a lot of book likes, you get a lot of Facebook likes and Instagram followers, but now it's shifting also to, or like it's getting broader. Like now it's Spotify also, it's like a channel. So now it's like, if I have a release on Revealed, build up my followers on Spotify. And that's pretty cool. Like, and there are not a lot of labels doing that. There are some labels doing that, but they're getting their own playlist. They're really selfish, like that's not the mistake we want to make. So we really help the artists, and they can even send us like a playlist they want to gate as well. So it's not just like Revealed playlists. They can say like, I built this playlist, and can you also gate this one? And we'll put it in the option, and then people can follow it. And if they don't have Spotify, they can also unlock the music with credits on our platform. And the credits they can earn by using our iPhone app and Android app.
That's one of the things that I really admired about Revealed, and you guys did it with the brand of Hartwell as well. One of the things that makes you stand out, in my opinion, is that you are always working on the newest and latest technical opportunities. You know, like creating apps. You have the demo pitch thing going on, like the Tinder for music thing. I think that's that's important that a company keeps evolving and keeps thinking ahead of time, you know, like not necessarily only look, well, actually you mentioned it, like not only look at what's going on right now, but also looks at the things that are going on for the future.
Yeah, and now you kind of know why we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're like, we don't want to be the label who's doing something really great and then something is moving, and we're like, oh shit, we need to also jump into it. And we are the latest, you know. So now we're kind of, I feel like we're kind of ahead of now for a lot of new developments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like people have no idea what we're working on on the back end, like the system we are building, and it's really great. And we're just like, in my opinion, we just began with it. Like there's a lot of new stuff coming in the next year, and I'm super excited about that. Like I don't think people will even see it coming, so I think it's going to be a really exciting year for us, because we're kind of moving, because we are a music label right now, where we're kind of shifting also into a tech company. And there's like, for example, Monster Cat is doing a lot of tech developments. I think they're really one of the greatest labels, really comparable to us, but we really try to take it to the next level. And I think in the next few months you will see some developments on Revealed, and you'll be like, I think we'll blow away a lot of not competition, but other labels. They're like, what, they're doing that? That's crazy. Like we haven't even thought of that. And I think that's gonna be really cool, because we're now in full development of that, and we almost finished some developments, but I think that's gonna be super excited. So it's basically, it's gonna be around music, but it's gonna be like music tech. You know, like you have like fintech, you have music, and we're jumping in, kind of making some applications. So not just for Revealed, but also for other artists and labels. And I think that's gonna be super interesting.
What's your opinion on that voice commanded apps, as in, well, not necessarily apps, like those devices, like I have
I think
Alexa here. I know you had one as well. I'm not sure if you still have it, but
I have three of them.
Oh yeah, three of them. But what's your opinion on that? Do you think the music industry will profit from it? As in, it will give some extra streams just because it became easier for people to listen to music?
I think there will be less friction. You know, I think sometimes people are too lazy to look something up on Spotify, because they have to actually write something, and they have to look something up. And if you can just shout to a system like Alexa or whatever it is, and the music will play right away, it will definitely mean more streams. Or children, for them it's so much easier to listen to music. Or even like older people, they can't even read. My father has problems reading his iPhone screen because it's too small. Even if you make the letters bigger, it's still hard to find a track, and it takes forever. But if you can just talk to a machine, and it will actually play back the song, it will mean more streams, because it will reach a bigger audience, children, older people, and all these devices are connected to Spotify or Apple Music, so it will mean more monetized content, because I don't think it's going to be really easy for piracy people on these apps, as an app. So
sorry, the connection.
I think it's good news for the music industry.
Went a little bit there. What did you say, the last part?
Yeah, I said like it's good news for the music industry, because it's gonna be really hard to have piracy into these apps, because they are curated and tested and approved. So that's a good thing. So and I think it's gonna reach a big audience. And also, what you can see now, trend is really screen time. Which
as in screen time on your phone, like that notification you get once a week telling that you have a fucked up life because you spend 20 hours a day on your iPhone.
Yeah, like that. What you see now is like it's really a trend. Like Apple, they made this app, screen time app, where you can actually limit yourself. And I believe it's going to be even bigger trend that people. Actually, it's kind of weird to say it, but because everything is digital and everyone's using Instagram. I think, I actually think in the next few years, because it's really hard to predict, 5 years, 10 years. But I think people are actually going to use the screen time. They will have less screen time because of this trend. Because you don't need to see your phone anymore, and voice assistant apps definitely will help that. And you can already see it in, for example, Spotify. They're jumping on the, instead of being a music platform, they're an audio platform.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, you can listen to podcasts now. And
they recently bought those two companies, Anchor and what was the other one?
Grim, something like Grim.
Yeah, I actually I distribute my podcast through Anchor. I like Anchor; it's just an easy thing. But I think Spotify did a great step there to achieve to acquire that company actually.
Yeah, they're like they want to be the number one audio app in the world, because they saw like, for them it's really important that users are staying in the app, because that means more money. The longer you stay in the app, the more advertising you'll see, or the longer you keep using it. And for them, podcasts, like long form audio, is really was an opportunity for them. They had to grow in that area, in that space. So now they bought those two companies, so they can have a bigger market share, and so people will stay longer in the app, because now people know that the problem. Most of people don't even know you can listen to podcasts, except the audio.
I actually see my numbers rising on Spotify since like 2 or 3 months. I can see the numbers rising. So I don't think it's necessarily the acquirer of Anchor and the other one, but I think people starting to listen to podcasts more and more.
Well, you can see they're pushing it now. If you open home the app, you can see podcasts, and there was never the podcast thumbnail.
That was gone. Like it was all the way in the back, like yes, we have podcasts, but you have to look for it.
Yeah, it was really boring artwork. You could really see it between all the genres, and now they pushed it forward. One of the 4 tiles, I think. So now people are like, hey, wow, you can listen to podcasts, and now most people, they don't even know what a podcast is. Like of course the young people, millennials, they all know it. But for example, my sister, she doesn't really know what a podcast is or what it does. But once you find out, it's amazing, because you can find something, what really, if you're passionate about something really small, really niche, you can find a podcast about it, and it's like talking to your best friend about something you really enjoy. And it's just like amazing to find that one podcast you love, and then you're like getting obsessed with it, and you learn so much more about this really one niche subject. I think it's amazing.
I actually use it a lot. Like I started using it. Well, the funny thing is that you still know this as well, because it's been happening for years and years. Like 5 years, 7 years, 8 years back, DJs were already making podcasts. The difference was it was just a radio show.
Yeah.
And right now, those things start to shift into talk shows.
Yeah. So I started actually. I had an iTunes podcast myself when I was an artist. And I figured out how to do it. I made all these like in GarageBand, I produced my own podcast with the like artwork per track title. I spent a lot of time on it, trying to find a new audience, And then when I brought into the Hardwell team, I actually was the one who brought the podcast from Hardwell, the radio show, to iTunes, because they were not even on iTunes. They were not on YouTube. So I was kind of the one who was like putting it on YouTube and on iTunes. I think they were on YouTube, but not on iTunes. So I kind of like put was fixing the iTunes podcast, and that really blew. I believe that's one of the strongest. I think that's the main reason why Hardwell found a big audience, because his podcast was really good. There was always new music.
It's still in the top 3, right?
Yeah, it's always in the top chart. You can really see now it's getting a bit less, because like the people are looking more for other podcasts. But back then it was doing so many, like millions of downloads a month. It's like incredible, and nobody really knew. Like other artists, they had podcasts too, but it was just too much work. So what you would see, like they had a monthly podcast or once in 4 months. But Hardwell's podcast was always online on 12 a.m. on Saturday, and still is online 12 a.m. on Saturday, and it's been ongoing for years and years. So people, they don't even know, they'll go to the app and they know it's a new episode. They don't even have to ask for it. They know it will be there on Saturday when they go to the gym in the morning.
I think that's the power as well, like being consistent with it. I really believe in being consistent with everything you do. Social media, releasing music, releasing your podcast. I like last week or 2 weeks ago, I created a video about the reference with soap series, like what the power of soap series is.
Yeah.
Why do people wait for a soap series to start every day at the same fucking time? Because they know when it starts. You don't have to think about it anymore. Every day, 8 o'clock, it's
Even the news journal. You know, why do you think there are
exactly
2 million people watching the news every day? Like they know it's gonna be there, and once you know it's gonna be here for you, make people easy,
yeah,
and they get frustrated. And I think the podcast was really huge for Hardwell to grow, and find new audiences, and sometimes even when sometimes the agents they fight over billing, right, on, let's say, on a festival, and they're like two big artists, and they're like, no, we have more Facebook likes, we should be one. No, and then the agent, they ask my input to leverage, to get some numbers to leverage, and then I pull down the statistics from that one country, and then I can tell them like, well, actually Hardwell has 200,000 downloads in this country in 1 month, and he's number one in that country, and this other artist is 50. So the promoter or whatever, the other agents was trying to build leverage with Facebook likes or Spotify streams, but then I pulled up some other statistics and could actually explain why Hardwell should be bigger, or
that's
billing or whatever. And right now we build like it's a bit complicated, but it's like a business framework. And the business frameworks, we pulled down all the data available of Hardwell, and that actually results in the brand equity level. So it's like an amount. It's a certain amount. Doesn't really matter what amount is, but it's an amount we use to see the growth of all the channels combined. And that's how we kind of measured success as well, because sometimes you do something, you spend money or you invest in one medium, and maybe it will not result in certain income, but it will result in more followers or likes, which eventually will build up your brand equity as a total.
Yeah.
There are like millions of we've learned like maybe 100 channels connected, and everything together will build up like one number, and that's like our benchmark for each month or year. And podcast is an important one, because it's really like you can measure how many fans he has through unique downloads and the visitors on the websites, and so you can kind of measure those data points, and you can use it as leverage and see how well you're performing, how your team is performing for an artist. Because it's not fair, you cannot just look at Spotify numbers or just emails or just Facebook likes or Instagram comments.
That's the hard thing, like every platform has their own statistics available, but it's really hard to measure the overall success or the overall return of investment. As you mentioned, like what if we put $1,000 into this platform? In what kind of way does that come back to us? Like, does it come back in money? Does it come back in followers, in clicks, or whatever it happens? It's really hard
So we call it brand equity. So that's basically, if Hardwell will sell his company one day, which is not possible, of course, because it's Hardwell, but well, it's possible. But for example, if he wants to sell his trademark or whatever one day, he's not going to do that. But it's an example. Then we know the number, and this is, for example, what spinning does. Like why are they worth 1 million euros? It's not just the music they release or the followers they have on YouTube. There's like a lot of different aspects. All these aspects combined, they determine the value of a company, and we kind of took that approach and use this for benchmarking to see how we're doing, performing, and what a certain campaign is doing for his brand equity. So then we can really explain why something costs money in the short term, but eventually will pay out in long term for his main value, like the brand equity we call it. So I think that's really interesting how we approach things. And it makes so much sense, like, because if you reach 1 million people on podcasts, but on Spotify, it doesn't mean you're not popular in general. Like if you're not performing well on Spotify, but you're performing really well in one area, it doesn't mean you're not big. Because you're not big on Spotify doesn't mean you're not big at all. Like no, it doesn't make any sense. So, but connecting those dots, it will make much more sense.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I have a conscience question for you. What if you needed to start a new artist career right now from scratch. So you know how to make music, you start making music again, and you have the aspire to become a successful DJ again. Looking at
Yeah.
all the possibilities you have, looking at the level of where the labels are right now, how would you strategically build a successful artist career? Like where would you start? What's the thing that
Yeah, so
really matter?
yeah, so it was funny because I met up with two artists here in LA, and they kind of asked me like, "Hey, what's your biggest advice? You know, like you can give us." And and before that we had lunch, and they were talking about what they're doing right now, and they were like, "Yeah, we're working on merchandise and a radio show and this and that." And the first thing I was like, because I made a mistake myself when I was younger. I was creating a podcast.
Me too.
I was doing everything except the one most important thing,
Which is?
making music. Um, so I told them like, hey, whatever you do, you know, in life, in work, music, whatever, you have to prioritize everything. You know, like
Mhm.
basically everything is about priority. So if you're here and you create and if you're just starting out and you're creating a podcast and merchandise and everything, then it distracts you. You know, you spend so much time on a podcast, like 1 day a week or 4 hours a week, that those 4 hours a week could have gone to your production scale or making new music. Because you know, like merchandise and podcasts, they're actually really low on the priority list. You know, like building your career. Like
Just a
for
nice
Hardwell, it
first.
made yeah for Hardwell made sense when he was already here to gain extra 10% or 20% of audience through a podcast. You know, but it doesn't. It only helps your career if nobody else make a podcast about music. But you know, it's 2019. Everyone's making a
Yeah,
podcast.
we now
And
know that doesn't happen anymore. Yeah.
and of course, there's a lot of opportunities now where you can jump in like new spaces. For example, the Voice app or whatever you have, like, or a podcast about something really specific. But then you'll be known for that one thing you do really specific, and not for your music career or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, you get, you know, you build a career, different career. But if you're an artist and DJ, like I told these guys, like, hey guys, whatever you guys doing, drop it. You know, don't why on God earth are you making or merchandise if you only have like 200 fans? Like they're so distracted and they're so confused. They look at other artists, what they're doing, like they have merchandise and they have podcasts, and they think that's the way to do it. You know, but they're like different. They're in a different phase of their career.
You have a
They're
bigger
in a
brand.
more they're actually in the last phase of their career. It's like optimization, trying to gain this few percentage more fans. It's
Yeah.
a really different phase, and you can't skip the other phases. You know, you have to start at phase one.
And what are those first phases that you're going through as an artist? Like, of course, focusing on music, and then?
So yeah, so music is so important. So you have to prioritize everything. So if number one priority is in the music, of course. If you make best music, greatest music, but also it has to make sense. For example, what I was doing, I was a great producer, being really, you know, I knew all the how to make a good song, but I was making everything mixed. Uh, I was making a, I was making an Avicii song. I was making a tech house song. I was making an electro house song. I was making big room song. You know, there was no idea behind it. I was just making whatever I feel like that morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Nobody told me like, hey, dude, you maybe shouldn't release a tech house track and then an electro track and techno track and whatever you're doing. Like, maybe it's not a good idea. Like, I had no clue. I was just making whatever I was feeling that morning. Um, but I had no idea about like branding and consistency, like about the sound or to create your own sound. And I kind of like an own sound, but it was just more like the trick I was using to make a certain bass line or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't really something you call like my own sound. Um, so I really had no clue what I was doing. You know, I was just making music, and the music I was making was great, but it wasn't really insanely great. Like sometimes I had the track everyone was playing, but it was not really a big song or something. So you know, what I tell these people is like, hey, what you have to do, of course, it's nowadays it's not just about music, you know, like branding is kind of shifting towards the priority list, you know, like maybe it was like the last one in line, but now I think it's maybe the first one after the music, you know, like and it makes sense. For example, if you're a potential fan, or if you're a Spotify curator, or whatever curator you are, like you're looking for a special story in someone, and if you receive music and there's nothing really going on with this artist, and it's just like an average song, or the song is just as good as 10,000 other songs they receive a week, they will probably not really play this to you, because they're like, okay, it's just like generic, or their songs out there were as good, but this guy made this when he got when his son got birth, or when he was touring around the world and he was playing with this art, you know, this like story.
It's more about the story behind it.
They need to find an angle so they can explain to the consumers why this song is more special than other. So like the branding and storytelling is shifting really, I think it's shifting really high in the priority list. So what doesn't mean as an artist is what you have to do is, if you have the music, which is great, it's, you know, there are 10,000 other songs probably as good as your release in a week, you know, because they get 30,000 songs a week, you know, so your song is, you think your song is special, but it's not really special. You just have to imagine they're sitting in the office on Thursday afternoon, they're going through all the music they will receive that week. Do you really think they're gonna listen to your song like 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
No.
You know, not really. And do you really think your song is more special than 1,000 other songs?
Yeah.
Probably,
so how would you get that attention? Like that's of course one of the main thing that all those people are struggling with. Like, how do you manage to pique the interest of an A&R manager that gets 30,000 songs a week?
Yeah, so I kind of have a new theory about that. Like I was
share it with us.
I think I think you have to flip it a little bit, like you have to turn it around. I was seeing there was this speaker at a Soho House in West Hollywood. He's a curator at Spotify, hip hop curator, and he was telling a story that they if there's a song they can't miss, somebody will tip them. You know, they will have friends, family, or maybe they hear it in the club, or someone around them in their space. They telling him, or maybe it's a blog, or it's something newsworthy. You will notice the track. You know, the song is not will get to him. Like, it's not all the way around. You will not really discover the song, but it will get to him automatically. You know, like, this sounds really weird, really like spacey, but what it means, if you know if you know that, you know, that fact that the curators, they're actually looking for, you know, they get tipped by other people, or they see it on blogs, or they see it on Twitter, or they see it in different playlists, or they see it in clubs, or they see it in a newspaper. Just a stupid example, but just like, you know, they see it somewhere and someone is tipping it, or they see it themselves, then, you know, the curator is like, hey, there's something going on with this artist. Like, this artist is buzzing, or this song is buzzing. There's something going on, and
I'm missing something somewhere.
Like it. There's something in this song, like there's a buzz, or there's a, hey, this one friend's telling me this artist have to keep looking on, but also my neighbor is telling me about this artist, or this blog is writing 3 times about it. There's something about this artist, you know. So it's actually, so instead of as an artist pitching the song to him, it gets pitched automatically through different media, you know.
Yeah, and word of mouth.
So and what he said, like the curator said, like because someone in the audience was asking the same question, because it's the number one question people ask to curators. It's the same with Reveal, like, you know, how do you get signed by Reveal? And it's the same question, and he basically said, like, well, you know, if the music is really good, you know, and there's really something going on, we will find it ourselves, you know, it will come to us. So and how you can kind of push it is like to build a community, you know, like build a small community, make people talking about you or your song, you build a small group of fans, or maybe it's in the club night, or maybe it's something you tweeted, maybe it's an Instagram post, or you have to build some kind of buzz around your track, or you as an artist. And you can see it with there's a lot of artists blowing up right now, like even in the pop industry, like Lewis Capaldi is an artist. People, it's word of mouth basically, and doesn't really go away, and because people are like, oh, you have to check this artist, and they play it in the car with friends, and then their friends, they're playing it with other people, because the music is so good, like and if something is so good or so special or so cool, then people will share it with friends, and those other people will share it, and that's how you spread the word.
I remember a few years ago, people, well, let's just call it back in my time when I was a DJ, people used to call it collecting ammunition, like every little thing you get. So let's say a feature on a blog, or a spot in a playlist, or a support from a DJ, or someone that just happened to like your track. It doesn't matter what you do, all those kind of things are ammunition. And you just gather all those little pieces of ammunition to build like a big bomb.
So you call it ammunition, I call it more the threshold, like you're filling up a threshold, and then once there's like a magic threshold, once you hit it,
and you flip over it.
You flip over it. Oh, right, now you can play this. Oh, wow. And this is a really good example with Julian Calor. Like he and it's not something we done on purpose. He had a track called Typhoon, and we kind of did on purpose. We were like really teasing the track, because we felt this song is really special. We had to do something special with it. So we are, he was playing the track.
You meant like let Hardwell playing it in certain sets as an ID.
So Hardwell played it on Tomorrowland, Tomorrowworld 2000. I don't even know, 14 or something like that, 15. That was our biggest trick. Was like to let Hardwell play the IDs, and then people are going crazy on the 1,000 track list, and they're all trying to find who is the artist, and and it's like building a story, right? Like you're building like a hype, a buzz, or on the track, like something going on. And then what happened was like it's the craziest thing. Like Pete Tong played a track in his show, and we're like, what how did someone send it to him? Like, no, I don't even know his email. Like, I have no clue how to get your song on BBC One, Pete Tong. And back then he had a huge show, like you probably know it. Like he had a huge show. It was before Danny Howard was doing it. And if you're played by Pete Tong, it's like getting playlists on by Spotify New Music Friday in the US. It's like
or
the same leverage. Like you made it. Like you made it as an artist. And he played the track, and it's like, and he was telling like, hey, wow, this is something special. This song is going crazy on blogs, and this song is buzzing and blah blah. And it's Julian Calor, Typhoon, out on Hardwell's Revealed recording, like something like that. The clip is still online. And then and it made us realize like how it's kind of the same like the curate is looking now for music. You don't pitch the song to them. The song will find them. It's really hard to explain, but it's like eventually if you do a good.
I don't think it's that weird, because those people are music lovers as well, and they like to pick their own cherries, like they would like to pick their own perfect tracks.
And I know how it goes. They have an editorial team, with the radio show. They produce the whole show, and he's kind of the. But like people looking on blogs, looking on playlists, they try to find special songs in a radio show, because otherwise it's just another radio show. So they try to find cool stories, and that's why they picked this song Typhoon by Julian Calor, because it was buzzing as crazy, like a 1,000 track list, like Dancing Astronaut. Everyone was talking about it. That's more an extreme way for us to how that went, like an extreme way. But once you know how that works, and it really hasn't changed in the past years.
I think the only thing that has changed are the platforms, like first it was the labeled loop form, then we went 2001 track lists. Like there's probably a few other things going on right now, but I think the only thing that has changed is the platforms where people are looking for the music.
Yeah. So now it's probably maybe if you have sometimes a track now, like which is already out for a long time, and then it takes 6 months, 9 months. Loud Luxury is a good example. Body, like took forever to be a big hit. but the song was buzzing for a long time in playlists and some small radio stations, they picked it up, and then they could see that this track was there's potential, because each time someone listened to the track was really a high ratio of people save the track to their Spotify profile, and there's like a metric you can use to see how a track is performing. And what it means like if you have 1,000 people listen to your track, and let's say 10% is saving the track, and normally it's 5%, that means like there's something special going on with this track. Like people really like it, you know, like people love to play it, and there's like a really important metric you can use to push a release further, because it means like the potential is great, because there's so much. You just have to find a bigger audience in order to make this a bigger track, you know, like, and also curators, they look at that kind of data, and for example with that track Body, like took forever, but once you found a track and he was looking at the metrics, then he put it in the main playlist and all the other bigger playlists, and now it's really blowing up. But the track is already out for a long time, you know.
Yeah.
It was re-released by all the labels and made new deals and whatever, put it to and push it to more radio stations, put more budget behind it, because they knew like the ratio was really big on this one. So, you know, if you're a starting producer, and you have 0 monthly listeners, you have 0 fan base, it's the hardest thing to get noticed. It's pretty impossible, because you have nothing special to say, because your track is just as good or as bad as 10,000 other tracks that week. So it's impossible. So you have to build a story.
And how would that be the best way for you right now? How would you do it? Is that by like trying to get supported by other DJs, or is it by getting playlisted, or reaching out to those blogs and those YouTube platforms, or would you do it all?
Well, trust me, if you have a track signed by a big YouTube channel, let's say Proximity or whatever, trust me that you will see emails from a major label like, hey, we saw your track on this YouTube channel. Well, actually, they already have a deal with a major label, so that won't really happen. But if you have like an other channel who's not signed by a label, you probably get emails from smaller labels or bigger labels. They're interested in you because they saw your track, they discover you, you know, on YouTube page or maybe playlist. I remember we're always looking at a Spotify playlist to see if there's like tracks like artists unsigned, you know, to discover new talent. You know, it's a great way to look for new talent at that time. Not anymore, but at that time. So if you have a track and you pitch to a YouTube playlist or YouTube channels, that's definitely a good way to get noticed. You know, because you have a big audience, and that's really interesting for labels, because then they realize, oh, this artist is already known. That whoever is in charge of the YouTube channel already knows this artist, because they've already been an artist. And if we sign his second release and and it will jump on the YouTube channel, it's good money for us, because it will generate X amount of Spotify streams. That's how they think, you know, or they think it's a great talent and we can help him a little bit more. So that's definitely a great way to get signed and noticed. But there again, you have to send your track to these YouTube channels and build a story, because if you send your track and they never heard of you, you have no reference, you have nobody's introducing you, you know, you have no manager or whatever, nobody knows the guy who's ever in charge of the YouTube channel. It's gonna be really hard, because you know no emails. I have to go to every email, and if they see a random name, they probably won't really click on it. But there's a lot of tools right now. You have like submithub.com. You know, like a lot of tools now available to kind of get in that position, so you can pay for the opportunity to get heard. And once you get heard, and it's really good, they will put it on the channel, because they need content. So it's really like a question about how good is your track, and how smart are you with pitching it to
and how interesting is your story, you know, like you mentioned, music is not the only thing they're looking for anymore. So first you have to get your foot between the door by letting them listen to your music. Then when they like your music, they're going to look up your social pages and see like, okay, who is this guy, or what has he been doing, and how does his branding look like, and whatever. Like all those things combined are are the answer right now. I think it's not just one thing anymore.
It can be one thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can only be one thing if you're extremely good. And it's almost like winning a lottery. Like you're probably not like that, you know, like 99 if like producers are watching this video and they think they're the 1%, they're probably not, you know, like it's
No,
it's
really
just not true, you know? Like
yeah.
yeah, so but if you're really good, like let's say like Avicii, you know, like whatever, like extremely well, and you send your track to people and then they heard by accident or whatever, you know, then I still believe you get blown up really fast because you're so good and everything you touch is turning into gold, you know, like, but that's just like maybe one artist a year, you know, like it's like Martin Garrix, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like a certain level, like it probably won't happen to you. So
I wouldn't bet on that horse.
don't bet on that horse because it's probably not the case, you know, like even though everyone around you tell you you're like extremely well talented, there are thousands of other producers talented as you, you know, so don't, you know, definitely don't bet on a horse. And if you bet on a horse and you're maybe the 1%, then you're lucky, I guess, but you're probably not. So you have to find new ways. And this is the thing about priority, you know, like you can spend a million hours looking for YouTube blogs or YouTube channels, blogs and Spotify curators, make databases and make sure to contact everyone. But if your music is shitty, then you're actually harming your career, because then you know you get only one good first impression and then they'll hear your track and it's like, oh, that's the guy who's sending shitty demos, and then your next email is probably going to be shitty also, or your third or fifth, they will never check you again, you know. So you have a real problem. So
you don't have a second chance for a first impression.
it's really hard, like you know, it's really hard to gain their trust back, I guess. The only way to go around that is be lucky that they open your second email or reach to new people they haven't heard your first demo, you know.
Yeah, or hear your music through someone else, like a friend of theirs coming to them, like, hey,
oh, you have to check this, like, what's the artist name? Oh, it's this artist. And really, like, I heard this, it was so shitty, it was 1 year ago. Like, no, but he is really good now, you know. That's like another possibility.
Could happen.
Could happen. But so I think, you know, I can urge enough, like the music needs to be really good. And I think that's the hardest thing. And I think that's, you know, what you do with artist coaching, I think that's amazing, because there's someone being honest, telling you, you really have to spend the next like 6 months improving your talent, or improving your skills. And maybe you hear something special in him, like how he creates melody, and then maybe he can have someone else can help him with production, and you can put one and one together, and this is maybe like a duo, like bass jackers. Or
sometimes that happens, you know. To me, it depends with every client, as in every client's different to me. That's why all the packages are custom. But sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just have people like bass jackers, you know, like they bet on their strengths, as in Ralph just is a great producer and he doesn't like the touring part, and Marlon is like the DJ and he's not that necessarily into producing. So why not combine those two things and build a really strong brand by combining forces? Sometimes that happens.
So and you know, you don't have to be good at everything you do. Like, it's maybe not meant for you to be the amazing producer and the amazing songwriter. Like, it can be completely different jobs. But I think to be conscious, to be aware of that is really important. But it's really hard to explain to someone. Like, it's almost impossible to explain someone how to be aware. And I think
that's the thing with coaching. You don't explain it to them. You let them find it out themselves. You know, because explaining it to someone normally doesn't really work. They have to see it themselves. You have to see it before you believe it. That's the thing.
Yeah, and because if they're not experiencing it, it's like the hardest thing. Like, you can't explain someone to be. You can't explain everything to someone. Like, they have to experience failure or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not a bad thing that if you're a starting artist and you're sending your tracks to your first ever tracks to people, because you will learn from it. You know, you will get no response, or they'll reply like, "Oh, this is a shitty demo." Then you're being confronted about the fact that someone is not liking it, and it's not just you. And and it's different than all the people around you say it's amazing, like your mom or your parents. Then you're like actually see yourself, and I think that's maybe maybe better if you experience yourself. But for your career, if we can give some advice about that, it's I think it will help you faster if you just focus on the producing qualities and make sure your music is a certain level before start sending out, unless you have an amazing melody scale. You create amazing melodies, because then if you send to a label, they will probably be like, because we get demos from young people, they're 14, 15, 16 years old from Sweden maybe, and they're like, wow, this production sucks, but this melody is amazing. It's the best melody I've heard, like in the past months. All demos we get is the best melody we get, and then we kind of are excited about this artist, and we want to help him because we feel this passion, like, oh, I really want to help this artist. I really hope it's gonna be a big artist because he's so talented. We feel the urge to help him, and then we stay in touch, and we kind of mentor him with production, and that's also at Reveal. We have all these master classes now and sample packs, and also this pro feedback stuff. So we really help them in a faster way, and we have all the tools available. We can really help them develop their production skills, whatever they need. But so if you're really good melodies, labels will definitely hear that, because there are not a lot of people out there who can create amazing melodies.
Yeah, you will stand out if you have a big talent for that. Definitely.
Yeah, it's like Mozart, like if you have a really good ear for melody, anyone can produce a song now, but creating melody is something magical. Like, of course you have chord progressions, musical theory, but combining all these elements like interval and the right melody, right timings, the right progression, it's not really something I think you can learn. It has to be in you. You really have to be in you in order to make amazing melodies and stuff. And of course you can kind of force it in a way, but like if we hear like a talent with a really special melody, you will hear it right away. It's never a doubt. It's never like, oh, it's amazing, but it needs some work. No, it's always like, okay, wow, this is crazy. This will blow us away.
Instant click or something.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen often. We get like thousands of demos, and it's only maybe like one. It happens a few times a year.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's put an end to this call, man. I think it's over an hour, like 1 hour 15 minutes. It's been a good talk.
Yeah. It's been. I really hope it's gonna. The priority is really important. Like I can't urge enough. Like the priority stuff is really important. Like building the sound, the brand.
Yeah, that's a good tip, because I think a lot of producers now tend to forget the fundamentals of the artist's career and want to go to the second step immediately and forget the first one. And I think
especially social media now, like they look at artists, they aspire, and then they see, oh, this guy's posting 3 times a day, I have to do the same, I have to go live, blah blah, and they forgot the basic, the basis. And I saw a tweet the other day, it was something like, if you're better at social media than your music, then there's something wrong. Like you're playing the wrong game, you're doing it wrong. And it's true, if you're better at something else than making music, then either it's a bad thing or a good thing. Maybe you shouldn't be a producer. Maybe you're better at social media. I'm just saying.
Or maybe you should just hire a producer and set up a duo. Like that could also be an option.
And then maybe you're just a feature manager. Like maybe that's more what you like.
True. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to have this talk, and I really believe a lot of people watching this will get tons of value out of it. So thanks for taking the time. Have a good stay in LA, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Cheers, man.
Bye.